seated. Please be seated. For the record, both assistant state attorneys are present. All four defense counsel. And Mr. Rodgers. Is the state ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense is ready?
Yes, sir.
And she just needed a bathroom. She did no issues, right? No. Okay, awesome. Let's make sure. Please be seated. We'll ask our jurors again, did you follow my instructions, not talk about the case among yourselves or with anybody else, or look up any of the people or places involved? Even if you did so inadvertently, now would be the time to raise your hand and let me know. For the record, no jurors lifted their hand. And if at any reason any of our jurors need a break, by all means, just let us know as well. State, next witness.
This time the state calls Nick Schuenemann.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Detective Schuenemann, would you please state your name for the record?
Nick Schuenemann.
And would you spell your last name for our court reporter, please?
Schuenemann.
And where are you employed?
The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been so employed?
13 years.
And currently, in what capacity are you with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office?
As a crime scene detective.
And as a detective, that means you're also a sworn law enforcement officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you work before you worked for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office?
With the Johnson County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity did you work with the Johnson County Sheriff's Office?
As a commissioned deputy sheriff.
And are both of those in Missouri?
Yes, ma'am.
On opposite sides of the state?
Yes, ma'am.
If you could just give to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury a little of your background, maybe your educational background.
I earned a Bachelor's of Science degree from the University of Central Missouri. While I was in college, I went to the Police Academy in 2001, graduated from the Police Academy, started working at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office. While working at the Johnson County Sheriff's Office, I earned my Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice. I met my soon-to-be wife. I asked her to marry me. We moved to her hometown. It was the agreement. I began working at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office in 2006 as a road patrol deputy. In 2009, I became a detective within the Detective Bureau, doing general criminal cases. In 2010, I came into the crime scene unit of the Detective Bureau.
And did you have training to go into the crime scene unit, and have you continued training to be a part of that crime scene unit?
Yes, ma'am. While in the crime scene unit, I received numerous hours of training, crime scene training, and I earned a certification, a international board certification as a crime scene analyst through the International Association for Identification, and a certified fire investigator through the state of Missouri.
And are you still certified through the International Association for the identification as a crime scene analyst? Are you still so certified?
Yes, ma'am.
In 2015, what were your duties at the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office?
As a crime scene detective.
And were you assigned to assist certain Lee County Sheriff's Office personnel in their investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
When did your first involvement start?
The early morning of July 12th, 2015.
And when you say early morning, what do you mean by early morning?
It was 4 something in the morning.
And did you receive a briefing at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the nature of that briefing?
The commanders at the briefing advised that we were requested. I'm sorry.
Sustained.
And after that, was that a briefing?
No, it was a long briefing.
And then after that briefing, did you, what was your were you assigned a particular role?
Yes, ma'am. I was assigned to execute 2 search warrants.
And what was the first search warrant? Did you execute those 2 search warrants?
Yes, I did.
Did you participate in the execution of them? What was the first search warrant in which you participated in the execution?
It was at a private residence at 8894 Chapel Hill Court, Hillsborough, Missouri, 63050.
And were you looking for anything in particular?
I was under the direct supervision and guidance of Lee County Sheriff's Office deputies.
And let me show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit 33B. Is this where the first search warrant was executed?
Yes, ma'am.
And that is the location on Chapel Hill Court?
Yes, ma'am.
And while there, let me ask, did you collect pieces of evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to show you what has been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 38. And I also want to hand to you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 33E. These have all been previously shown to defense counsel. Referring first to 33E, what is 33E?
It is a printed digital image that I captured while within the master bedroom of 8894 Chapel Hill Court.
And what is, the state also handed you State's Exhibit for Identification 68. What is 68?
Excuse me, 68 or 38?
I thought I said 68. I'm looking to check. Yeah, 68. Yes, Your Honor. State's Exhibit 68. Thank you.
Okay.
What is State's Exhibit 68?
It is a evidence bag containing disassembled cell phone.
And was that a cell phone that you seized at the residence on Chapel Hill Court?
Yes, ma'am.
Referring to the photograph 33E, does that photograph show that cell phone in the location from which you seized it?
Yes, ma'am.
Move to introduce State's 33E, Your Honor, at this time.
Show it admitted.
Also move to introduce State's Exhibit number 68.
No objection.
Show it admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may.
I showed. Show you what has been introduced into evidence as 33E. Hand you a laser pointer.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you show us where in 33E the cell phone to which we are referring was located? Thank you. Now, we've also introduced in Devon State's Exhibit number 68. Is this in the same condition as when you first seized it from the master room, bedroom side table?
No, ma'am.
But this is the phone, the parts of the phone that you seized,
Yes, ma'am.
and you just both your own. After conducting the search at 8894 Chapel Hill Court, where was the next location where you executed a search warrant?
650 Old Highway 141, apartment I, Ida, in Fenton, Missouri, 63026.
And do you recall when you executed that search warrant?
Detective Downs and I arrived the following day.
I want to show you. Let me start with what's already been introduced into evidence, State's Exhibit 56A. Is that the location where you executed the search warrant on July 13th?
Yes, ma'am.
I might approach the witness.
You may.
I'm going to hand to you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 55, 56G, and 56F, and ask if you can take just a moment to look at them.
Yes, ma'am.
What are 56G and F?
56G is a printed digital image that I captured of the interior kitchen, dining room, living room area of the aforementioned apartment.
And 56F?
56F is a printed digital image that I captured of a trash can that was located within the kitchen, dining room, living room area of said apartment.
Move to introduce 56G and F.
No objection.
We'll show them admitted.
Now, you were also handed something in a white bag, State's Exhibit 55 for identification. What is State's Exhibit 50? What is State's Exhibit 55?
It is a package of evidence containing 3 paper cell phone documents and 1 Southwest Airways baggage claim ticket bearing Mark Sievers' name located within the aforementioned trash can.
So moved to introduce State's Exhibit number 55.
No objection.
We'll show it admitted.
I want to permission to publish
Yes, ma'am.
56G. Could you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury again what 56G is?
This is a digital image that I captured of the interior portion of apartment I at 650 South Old Highway 141, Fenton, Missouri.
And while it's dark, can you show to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury the trash can to which you referred when you were speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let me show you what's in evidence as 56F, photograph 56F. What do we see in 56F?
This was a view inside of said trash can.
And is it in 56F that you found the documents that are contained in 55?
Yes, ma'am.
If, Your Honor, the state might borrow the court scissors again.
Yes, ma'am.
side and remove the tag of the Southwest Airlines tag to which you have referred.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have the Southwest tag separated?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you lift it up and show it to the members of the jury? And this was removed from the trash can?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, it is small and ask permission to publish on the camera as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. And is that the Southwest Airline tag to which you were referring?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you would be so kind as to get all those pieces of paper back.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you also, on July 15th conduct evidence pursuant to a search warrant for a 2016 Hyundai Elantra?
Yes, ma'am.
And Madam Clerk, I gave you back Exhibit 33B. I should have kept it. And was that a car that was at the initial location of the Chapel Hill Court search warrant that was executed on July 12th?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing you again State's Exhibit 33B.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you see the car in 33B?
Yes, ma'am.
If you would point to the jury. There, I'm going to unzoom. Was the search warrant for search warrant though for that car was executed 3 days later, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 43. Can you identify what is State's Exhibit 43?
It is my original packaged item number 310-88, one black colored Garmin portable GPS device that was located within the aforementioned vehicle.
So that GPS device was taken from the silver car we saw in front of the Chapel Hill Court address.
Yes, ma'am.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit 43.
So admitted.
Now, after the execution of the search warrant on the car, did you then conduct an search warrant, the execution of a search warrant on August 25th of 2015.
Yes, ma'am.
And where was that search warrant conducted?
At the private residence in, I believe it was Cadet, Missouri.
Is that 10154 West Briar Drive in Cadet, Missouri?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit number 35A. Is that where the search warrant was conducted?
Yes, ma'am.
And during the execution of that search warrant, did you seize a variety of items or package them?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to start with what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 39. Identify State's Exhibit number 39. What is it?
It's the original packaging of the item number 310-120. It's a red colored Budweiser t-shirt located hanging within the master bedroom closet.
Let me also show you State's Exhibits 35G and 35H. Tell me what those two are, please.
Yes, ma'am. 35G is a printed digital image of a closet within the master bedroom of the location in Cadet, Missouri, whereas 35H is a printed digital image of the, from looking at this, the right side of the closet. The closet had possessed two doors, one on the right, one on the left. They were both interconnecting, just two doors on one wall.
Move to introduce 35G and H.
No objection.
Show them embedded.
So this is 35G, to which you're referring about the closet,
Yes, ma'am.
and let me move it over so and with your laser pointer, can you show the other part of the interconnecting closet?
Yes, ma'am. It is.
And did you, from this closet, remove a T-shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
And 35H, what is that a photo of?
It is the aforementioned shirt that was removed from the left-hand closet.
And is that the shirt that we have, that you have in your possession as State's Exhibit number 39?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you open State's Exhibit number 39 and hold it up for the jury, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. If you could just put it back into the evidence bag. Did you also collect a second shirt from that closet?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 41. What is State's Exhibit number 41?
It is the original packaging of item number 310-122, a white colored wicking t-shirt with V-neck located hanging in the master bedroom closet.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit number 41.
No objection.
Show it admitted.
Ask you, Detective, to open it and to display it for the jury.
Yes, ma'am.
And Detective Schuenemann, are there any markings on the outside of that shirt? Like, what I mean by markings are like manufacturer markings at the top of the neck or on the sleeve.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you just display those for the jury, please? And if you could turn that around to the other way. The back, so the outside of the clothing. And any marking on the sleeves that are on the outside of the clothing. If you could just display that to the members of the jury, please. Thank you. And you're showing them at the bottom of the t-shirt as well. Thank you. And then if you could put it back, roll it back up or fold it back up and put it back in the evidence bag, please.
Yes, ma'am.
While in that bedroom, did you also take into evidence a pair of black and white tennis shoes, which you would note as Missouri Exhibit number 310108?
Yes, ma'am.
If I might approach, I'm showing you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 32. What is State's Exhibit number 32?
It is the original packaging of item number 310-108, one pair of black and white lime green tennis shoes.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit number 42.
Your Honor. You may approach.
Yes, ma'am. No objection, 42 defense.
No, sir.
We'll show it admitted.
Exhibit 42. Do you see from where you seized Exhibit 42 in the photograph State's Exhibit 35D?
No, ma'am. I'm sorry, I do not.
If I zoom it in, would it help?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And could you, with the laser pointer, indicate to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where State's Exhibit number 42, from where you took State's Exhibit 42? Thank you. If you would open State's Exhibit number 42.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And if you could put those back into the bag. Handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 50. What is State's Exhibit number 50?
This is the original packaging of item number 310-112. It is one black tan hanging sign located on vertical side of the shelf in the kitchen area of 10154 West Briar, Cadet, Missouri.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit 50.
We'll show it admitted.
I'm going to show you what's been introduced into evidence as State's Exhibit 35C.
Yes, ma'am.
And I will zoom. In 35C, can you see from where the plaque was taken?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you show the members of the jury from where you seized the plaque? Thank you. I ask you to open State's Exhibit 50 and display it to the jury, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. If you could put it back into the evidence bag, please. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 53. What is State's Exhibit number 53?
Ma'am, it's the original packaging of item number 310-104, a one black and silver AT&T Alcatel cell phone and charger located atop the bathroom counter of 10154 West Briar, Cadet, Missouri.
I'm going to show you what's in evidence as photo 35F.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me zoom back out. And ask if you can show to the ladies if this photo reflects that particular phone, and if you could use the laser pointer to show the ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Now, did you also end up taking from a couple from vehicles that were outside of that residence on West Briar, some items for evidence.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to show you what's been marked for identification as States Exhibit 40 and States Exhibit 52. We start with States Exhibit number 40. What is States Exhibit number 40?
Thank you. It is the original packaging of evidence item number 310118, one white plastic / vinyl cooler located from the third row seat of a Dodge Caravan parked at the address of 10154 West Briar Drive.
Move to introduce into evidence States Exhibit number 40.
No objection.
Show it admitted.
Ask that you open States Exhibit number 40 and display it for the jury.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, and if you could replace States Exhibit number 40 within the bag. Now referring you to States Exhibit number 52, which is the other large brown bag that I've left seated at the witness stand.
Yes, ma'am. This is the original packaging of item number 310-1131 black North Face brand backpack located within our vehicle at 10154 West Briar Drive, Cadet, Missouri.
State seeks to move into evidence States Exhibit 52.
No objection.
Show it admitted.
And without asking you to open it, is that what we think of as a backpack that we put on our back
Yes, ma'am.
in the color of black?
Yes, ma'am.
Will not ask you to open it at this time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Now, you also collected, sample jumpsuits and gloves, or took into evidence sample jumpsuits and gloves from Joe Run, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm just going to show you what's already been introduced into evidence as States Exhibit number 44, and just ask you if these are the suits and gloves that you took into evidence at Joe Run.
Sir.
And you do not need to remove them from the box so long as you,
Yes, ma'am.
on the side of the road. I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 51.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could look at State's Exhibit 51. And is that the coverall that you received from Detective Downs and put into package for evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
And I also want to show you States 38A and B. They are already in evidence. But are these the parts of the cell phone you received from Detective Downs that you then sent, packaged such that you could send to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, ma'am.
Did there come a time when you were asked to photograph and take some evidence from Mr. Rodgers, from Jimmy Ray Rodgers, on August 25th?
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, I want to hand you two things. One has been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 89. August 25th. And the other has been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 53.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could take those and look at them for a moment, and then I'll ask you a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
What is State's Exhibit number 89?
It is a black AT&T cell phone, a battery for a cell phone, and a piece of aluminum foil.
And was that a phone that you seized from Mr. Rodgers on August 25th?
Yes, ma'am. I believe it was item number 310-125 C. Charles.
I noticed that within that bag is aluminum foil. What's the purpose of the aluminum foil?
The purpose of aluminum foil is
Objection, foundation.
Sustained.
As a crime scene analyst, with your certifications, your training, and your experience, is there a reason you put aluminum foil around a cell phone when it's collected?
Yes, ma'am.
And does
Objection,
that-
Judge.
Both sides approach for a moment.
Detective Schuenemann, we see aluminum foil in State's Exhibit number 89. Is that aluminum foil that you used with State's Exhibit number 89?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do with that aluminum foil that we see in State's Exhibit 89 at the time that you had the phone that's contained within 89 in your possession?
I wrapped the phone in aluminum foil.
And have you had training in the collection of cell phones?
Yes, ma'am.
And what training have you had in the collection of cell phones?
Within the approximate 1,497 hours of training that I received in crime scene, I can't tell you what particular crime scene cell phone collection training course.
But was there a particular cell phone collection training course that you took that talked about the appropriate way to collect cell phones?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you follow those procedures in collecting this cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
And is there a reason that you follow that procedure in wrapping in aluminum foil when you are collecting a cell phone?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is the reason that you wrap the phone in aluminum foil when collecting a cell phone?
So that the cell phone will not receive a signal if somebody tries to remotely wipe the phone, to delete the data therein remotely.
Thank you. I think I also handed you State's Exhibit number 53.
Yes, ma'am.
What is State's Exhibit number 53?
It's a printed digital image that I captured of Jimmy Rodgers while at the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit number 53.
May we approach, please?
Sure.
On this exhibit that have been previously used. So I'm going to remark the exhibit as State's Exhibit 92. What is State's Exhibit 92? Is that what you just talked about?
Yes, ma'am.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit 92.
No objection.
We'll show it admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may.
I don't think it's possible to zoom further. There we go. Don't think it matters. Is this State's Exhibit number 92, Detective Schuenemann?
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the photograph of Mr. Rodgers as he appeared on August 25th of 2015.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to have the defendant stand up in the courtroom, please.
Objection, Your Honor.
Both sides approach. Yes, ma'am.
Detective Schuenemann, does Mr. Rodgers, as he sits in the courtroom today, appear the same size as he did in 2015, or has there been a change in his size?
Objection, Your Honor. Backwards.
Overruled. You can answer, sir, if you can.
I don't recall, ma'am. I'm sorry.
While you were at, while Mr. Rodgers was at the, while you were collecting evidence from Mr. Rodgers and you took this photograph, were Buccal Swabs also collected from a Taylor Showmaker?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit 54.
Yes, ma'am.
What is State's Exhibit number 54?
It's the original packaging of item number 310-1301 paired cotton swabs containing Taylor Showmaker's Buccal standard.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit number 54.
I'm going to object to that foundation.
Were these Buccal Swabs that were, I'm sorry,
Sustained for now. Go ahead.
were these Buccal Swabs that were collected from Taylor Showmaker at the same time that Mr. Rodgers was in the office being processed? Or
Yes.
on the same day?
Yes,
That was
ma'am.
a poorly worded question. My apologies. And did you collect these Buccal Swabs, or were these Buccal Swabs collected in your presence? Can you look at the packaging and let us know?
Yes, ma'am. I obtained the Buccal standard from Taylor Showmaker.
Move to introduce State's Exhibit number 54.
No objection at this time.
Same objection. Foundation.
Overruled. We'll show it admitted.
Your Honor, if you give me just a moment.
Sure.
I have no further questions at this time, but if you would allow me to approach the clerk with the photographs which I retrieved.
Defense, will you need any of the exhibits in front of the witness, or can we remove those as well? not sure, we'll just remove them and you can ask for them.
Thank you. I need a couple.
Why don't we just move them and council can ask for them if needed.
Those are unsealed. That's unsealed also.
We'll take care of that later. I'll keep it open.
Yes. Fence.
Thank you. Good morning, Detective.
Morning, ma'am.
Can you tell us when you were first contacted, the very first contact regarding needing or providing assistance to the Lee County Sheriff's Department?
I was contacted by my commander advising that there was going to be a search warrant briefing the following morning.
Okay, when was that?
It was July 11th in the evening.
Of 2015?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
And did you provide any assistance in helping to prepare the search warrants?
No, ma'am.
Now, as part of your training and experience in law enforcement, would you agree that it is essential to properly document everything that happens?
Yes, ma'am.
Statements from people, would you agree?
Yes, ma'am.
Physical evidence,
Yes, ma'am.
anything collected?
Yes, ma'am.
In total, about how many hours did you put in on this case in assistance to
I don't
the Lee
recall.
County? You don't know?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Well, how about just on July 12th? Is that kind of a long day for you?
Yes, ma'am.
What time, you started, I believe you said at 4 a.m., about then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What time did you finish for that day?
I don't recall. It was in the evening.
Okay. So you had a briefing at 4 a.m., correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's so you can kind of learn what it is the Lee County detectives might be looking for?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long did that take?
Approximately an hour.
Okay. What'd you do after that briefing?
Directly after, I
Right.
went and got about a pot and a half of coffee, and began to drive towards the location of the search warrant of the 8894 Chapel Hill Court.
Okay, and that Chapel Hill Court, did you go alone?
In my vehicle, yes.
Okay. Was there a SWAT team with you too?
Not with me.
Did they arrive at the Chapel Hill Court
They did.
address?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is that SWAT team part of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, ma'am.
And that address in 8894 Chapel Hill Court, what county is that?
Jefferson.
It is Jefferson County. Okay, and how about Fenton, Missouri? What county is that?
Jefferson.
Okay, and how about the address on Westbriar Drive in Cadet,
Washington.
Washington? Okay. Do law enforcement officers have jurisdiction from county to county?
I'm not sure, ma'am.
Okay. Did you have jurisdiction from county to county?
I'm not sure, ma'am.
You're not sure whether you had jurisdiction?
No, ma'am. I am commissioned by the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. I work for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, and I assist. It could be North Dakota. I'll go to North Dakota and do what I'm asked to do.
Okay. So your department, your sheriff's office requests that,
Yes, ma'am.
but each county has their own sheriff's office, correct?
Yes, ma'am. To make lawful arrest.
Okay. So the Lee County sheriffs, when they ask you to assist, do they have jurisdiction in Missouri?
I'm not sure, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ask them, or did they tell you whether there was jurisdiction?
Those questions are above my pay grade, ma'am.
Okay. Can you swear in a witness outside of Missouri?
I don't believe so, ma'am.
Okay. So your law enforcement certification is based on the state that you're in, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you're employed by each individual sheriff's department has their own limits of jurisdiction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you're essentially, your sheriff has agreed to provide assistance to Lee County, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was there any limit to that assistance?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Did you help provide them, besides a SWAT team and your assistance, did any physical items, tape recorders, video cameras?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Did they ever ask for that?
Not me directly.
Okay. And in fact, these search warrants, they were videotaped, correct?
Yes.
Were you asked to videotape them, or is that your standard procedure?
Standard procedure, ma'am.
Standard procedure for Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, correct?
Good practice also.
Okay. So you go to the address at Chapel Hill Court.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know whose residence that was?
Based on the briefing,
Okay.
I had an inclination that it belonged to Curtis Wright and his wife.
Okay. And was Mr. Wright and his wife present when you arrived?
No, they were not.
Okay. What time did you arrive there?
I don't recall.
Okay. Would you have made that part of your report?
I would.
Okay. Do you need to refer to your report?
Actually, I would have to refer to the attachments from another officer because when I arrived, I responded to the area. I waited for tactical operations to stop. I was not at the residence until after tactical operations have already left and the building was secured. So in order for my report to reflect my time of arrival, I would not know if that was my time of arrival in the area or my time of arrival to begin the crime scene processing.
But as part of proper documentation, you would have documented that.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody would have documented it.
Okay. So in addition to your assistance, you had other Jefferson County officers present as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are any of the, let me rephrase that. And I think you referred to, I asked about the SWAT team, you referred to tactical officers. Is that the same thing?
Yes, tactical operators.
Okay. So you weren't there when the tactical or SWAT team went into the residence?
No, ma'am.
Okay. How about with the residents in Cadet, Missouri? Were you there for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When the SWAT team, there was also a SWAT team there. Is that right?
Not that I recall.
I don't think you recall. Okay. But there was one at the Chapel Hill Court.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you arrived when it was secure, and the SWAT team had secured the address on Chapel Hill Court. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Secure and unoccupied.
Okay. Had they retrieved people from inside the SWAT team?
Yeah, objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation. He said he wasn't there.
Sustained.
Were there, was Mr. Wright and his wife outside when you arrived at?
I don't recall.
Okay. Moving on to the Westbriar address.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recall what time you arrived there?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. Would you like an opportunity to review your report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, may I approach?
You may.
refer me to a page number, please?
Let's see where he finds it.
If you would refer to me to the page numbers of what you have
Discovery?
presented to him.
Starting at discovery page 35,132.
Thank you.
Just take your time, sir, and let us know when you're ready.
Thank you, sir. I'm ready.
Were you able to refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what time did you arrive at the West Briar address?
It does not say.
Okay, so that wasn't documented?
Not in my report, no. It was documented photographically.
I have another report, if you'd like to review that.
Yes, ma'am.
No, there's no
30.
question pending.
Same question. What time?
And what report do you have?
I have page 35,116. It's actually part of what was provided as to his.
Thank you.
Just identify
report.
what the report is for the record, and if it'll refresh your recollection potentially, sir, you can look at it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
May I approach?
Yes, ma'am, and it's his report?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Is that your report?
This is a worksheet that I usually do whenever I'm conducting a scene.
Did you
It's,
prepare that document?
I did.
That's a handwritten, not a typewritten document, is that right?
That's correct, ma'am.
Is there anywhere on that document that notes the time you arrived at the West Briar address?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what time is that?
At approximately 2:30 p.m. or 14:30.
And at, excuse me, sorry. And at 2:30 p.m., was there a SWAT team that had already been there and left?
I'm not sure, ma'am. They weren't there when I was present.
Well, what did you find at that location when you arrived?
Officers from the Washington County Sheriff's Office, cadet, and officers from Lee County, Florida.
Okay. And then you were coming from Jefferson County?
I was
correct?
coming from the Washington County Sheriff's Office, where I was told to stay until after the residence was unoccupied and secured.
And that's when you arrived at 2:30 p.m.?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that correct? Okay. Had there been residents in there to your knowledge?
The residence appeared to be lived in, yes.
Okay. Had Taylor Schumacher been there when you, or was she there when you arrived?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered, no one was there when he arrived in the residence.
I'll withdraw that question. When did you first make contact with Taylor Schumacher?
Believe it was at the the Washington County Sheriff's Office, following the processing of the residents on West Briar.
And do you know how long, you indicated you arrived about 2:30 p.m. How long did that processing take?
I would have to reflect on the page you just showed me.
Okay, would it help to see the same
Yes, ma'am,
report?
it would.
May
Thank
I
you.
approach?
If it'll refresh his recollection, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. At approximately 18:20, I departed, so 6:20.
For the record, which document is that?
I'm sorry, that is,
Discovery page 35,116.
Thank you.
oh, yes, ma'am.
Did you prepare any other reports that were to you reviewed?
Well, one is the report, the other one is an attachment to that report.
Did you prepare any other, besides property receipts, any other reports or attachments?
Not that I recall. I I composed some documentation to help my recollection for depositions and testimony and everything else. It's
Were you able to review all of that material
as
before
best as
coming?
I could, ma'am, yes.
So you come into contact with Ms. Schumacher approximately 6:30, is that right? Is that what time?
No, that the residence at Westbriar was released to Ms. Shoemaker at 1820 or 1830? At that time of departure.
And that's when you came into contact with her?
Yes.
Was that at the residence or at the sheriff's office?
I believe it was at the sheriff's office.
Okay. When you conducted your search of the residence on Westbriar, you had shown us that you had collected a red Budweiser T-shirt.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that right? Do you know whose that was?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know if that's the only red Budweiser T-shirt in the state of Missouri?
I don't know, ma'am.
Did you know who lived at that residence on Westbriar?
I was told a name of the possible occupants.
Okay. Was that Mr. Rodgers and Ms. Schumacher?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there evidence that children lived there as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that the reason for securing it first? And
I don't,
you indicated the residence was secured before you went in.
secured as there were no presence of things that could harm myself or others.
Okay. Okay. And as you walked around and were documenting items, were the Lee County detectives with you
Yes, ma'am.
the entire time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So were they on the scene until on that particular scene until you left at 18:30?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. You, may I approach for item, exhibit number 40?
Yes, ma'am.
Showing you what has previously been admitted as item, exhibit number 40.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you, take it out back, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Just so you can stand up.
Thank you.
There appears to be some blue markings on that. Do you know what those are?
No, ma'am, but having kids, it appears to be crayon.
Okay, thank you.
Square playground.
You indicated that you, and let me clarify, did you collect the coveralls that were found on the side of the road?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know who did?
Detective Downs.
Okay. And did he give them to you for processing or for marking?
He provided them to me for further packaging so they could be sent to Lee County, Florida.
Okay. And when did he provide them to you?
believe it was within the same time frame of the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, so that same day? time
Same
period.
day, same
Okay,
time frame. Yes, ma'am.
okay. And how about you collected exhibit number 89, the black AT&T phone? Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Are you referring to my item number 310-104, the cell phone located on the bathroom counter?
I didn't write that down. May I approach for exhibit 89, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was that provided to you by Detective Levin?
This is a cell phone that was provided to me from either Lieutenant or from Detective Downs or Levitt, I do not recall. This is the item number 310-125 C. Charles. It was a cell phone that was recovered from Mr. Rodgers' person.
So you did not collect that yourself?
No, ma'am.
But you packaged it up?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right? When you did you notice if there was a SIM card in the phone?
I don't look for those things, ma'am.
Okay, but if it was there, would you do anything different?
No, ma'am.
So it may or may not be in there? Just didn't look.
No, ma'am.
And then item number 53, the photo of the other phone, the Alcatel phone. Did you collect that from the residence?
The aforementioned item number 104 that was located on the bathroom counter?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you check that one for a SIM card at all?
No, ma'am.
Just have a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
State.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Is this witness to be retained or released?
Released, Your Honor.
No objection.
You're free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness.
This time the state calls Kim Van Waus. Kim
Van
Van
Waus.
Waus.
You're still under oath from the other day.
Yes.
Thank you. Come on up. Yes, ma'am.
Miss Van Waus, did there come a time when you processed a Hyundai Elantra that was brought into the Lee County Sheriff's Office into the processing center?
Yes, it was.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where cars are processed in the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
A portion of our building is called the impound, and we have two sections of this impound facility, a short-term and a long-term. The vehicles are usually for processing are brought into the long-term bay, which is where I process this vehicle.
And I want to show you what's already been introduced into evidence. It states exhibits 40, I believe it's 46 A and B. show you what's been introduced in evidence. Well, it's in evidence, so let me have you look at it here. 46A. Is that the vehicle that you processed in the bay?
Yes, it is.
And is this, is 46B a second picture of that same vehicle?
Yes, it is.
I want to hand you what's been marked for identification as 47A, B, and C. If you could take a moment and look at these and let me know what they are.
Okay. These are photographs I took of the vehicle.
Moved to introduce into evidence.
No objection. We'll show them admitted.
Thank you. Before I ask to publish them to the jury, let's talk about the processing of this Hyundai Elantra. Can you talk to the jury how you started to process this car, what condition you found it in when you went to the bay?
Just like a crime scene, I always start with photographs because I'm photographing the car as is how I find it. So I started with exterior and interior photographs of this vehicle, and then I started to actually do some more processing of the vehicle.
When you arrived to process the vehicle, was it secured?
Yes, it was.
And how was it secured?
The windows were closed and the doors were locked.
And how did you unlock it while you were doing your exterior documentation?
Yes, I did.
And how did you unlock it?
I used the keys that were with the vehicle.
In doing that, we've seen two photographs of the outside of the vehicle. Let me now show you State's Exhibit 47A. What is 47A?
This is a photograph of the steering wheel and dashboard, or dash of the vehicle, and it also shows the left front floor of the vehicle.
And 47B, what is 47B?
This is the left rear door that is open of the vehicle, and you can see the door panel as well as inside the vehicle from the left rear door.
And the photos that we looked at in 47A and B all came from what we see in State's Exhibit 46, the vehicle we see in State's Exhibit 46A, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Now I want to show you State's Exhibit 47C. What is 47C?
This is a photograph I took of the VIN plate of the vehicle.
And while most people may know what a VIN plate is, what is a VIN plate?
It's the vehicle identification number.
And what is a vehicle identification number?
It is a number specific to that vehicle.
Now, before you began to process the interior of the car, did you take any steps to ensure you did not contaminate the interior of the car?
I always wear gloves at all times.
And did you wear gloves when you were doing this processing?
Yes, I did.
Would you describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury how you approach the processing of the interior of this Hyundai Elantra?
For this vehicle, I did things a little bit different because trace evidence was important in this case. So in this case, I knew I was collecting trace, so I did my first trace collection very first after I started my photographs, or finished my photographs.
And how did you initially start to collect trace evidence?
I used a pair of sterile tweezers and an envelope, and I literally picked trace evidence off the floor and the seat of the left front seat and floor and the right front seat and floor.
And what did you do with that trace evidence that you picked off the floor and the seat?
I placed it inside of an envelope. I sealed the envelope and I placed it in a bag and turned it over to evidence when it was time to turn everything in.
Now, after you had collected the evidence with the tweezers, what was your next step?
In this case, I believe it was, I'm just going to check really quick. I believe I fingerprinted next. Yes, I did. So I fingerprinted the interior and exterior, or no, not the exterior, the interior only of this vehicle.
Did you collect any further trace evidence from the vehicle?
I did at a later time.
So you fingerprinted. What was your next step in processing this car?
I collected DNA swabs.
And after that, what was your next step?
Sorry, I'm checking again. That was it for the first initial processing of this vehicle. I processed it for multiple days.
Okay, so what day did you start your processing of this vehicle?
And I'm sorry, I need to take that back, I believe. I did.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Van Waus, if you would turn over your report so that you are not looking at it. If at such time as you do not remember and need to refresh your recollection, please let me know. What day did you begin your processing of this particular Elantra?
And I will need to refer to my notes. It was multiple days in this case, so I will need to refer to my notes if that's okay.
If you ask the court's permission for her to refresh her recollection from her notes
Yes, ma'am.
as to when she began her processing.
You may do so.
Thank you.
Judge? Again. Objection. Could we approach?
Overruled. When you're done refreshing your recollection, you can turn the report back over again.
Your Honor, could we at least ask what she is referring to?
Yes, sir.
I took basic information of what I did for each day and made a notes page, but it's reflective of my crime scene report.
So these are notes. This is not the actual report.
You can refresh your recollection with a crayon drawing if it works. Anything can be used to refresh recollection. You may continue, ma'am.
Your Honor, we need to approach.
No, sir. You may continue.
Your Honor, objection. We have not received any of that.
Your objection is noted for the record. You may proceed.
I began processing the vehicle on July 19th, 2015.
Did there come a time in the processing of the vehicle that you did vacuumings from the Elantra?
Yes, there was.
And when did that occur?
Again, I need to refresh for the date because this was multiple days.
You may do so.
July 28th, 2015.
And did you, I believe you walked into court with a bag? Yes.
Yes, I did.
If you would lift that bag for me, please. And the processing that you did, first you talked about trace evidence that you gathered by use of a tweezer. Let me show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 84. Remember, all this was previously shown to defense counsel. What is State's Exhibit number 84?
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P018456, and this is trace evidence from the left front floor, which is collected by the sterile tweezers and the envelope.
And I'm going to hand you a set of these now. Let me hand you State's Exhibit number, I'm going to hand you a set before we start. State's Exhibit number 86, State's Exhibit number 88, State's Exhibit number 87, and State's Exhibit number 85. Starting with, let's say, State's Exhibit number 85. What is State's Exhibit number 85?
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019086, and these were vacuumings collected from the left front seat and floor of the Hyundai Elantra.
And State's Exhibit number 86.
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019089, and this is vacuumings from the right rear seat and floor.
And State's Exhibit number 87.
This is Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019087, vacuumings from the right front seat and floor.
And State's Exhibit number 88.
Lee County Sheriff's Office property number 15P019090, and these were vacuumings from the left rear seat and floor.
When you talk about vacuumings, how do you vacuum a car for trace evidence?
This was also done similar to the house. It's a forensic vacuum where these canisters are placed on the nozzle end of this vacuum, and it's placed over the surface that I'm vacuuming. It's suctioning up any of the trace evidence, which is anything microscopic, hairs or fibers, into this canister. I place the two ends back on the canister, place it inside of a plastic bag, and then I place that plastic bag inside of an evidence bag.
And so for each of the areas you described, for State's Exhibit 85, 86, 87, and 88, you used a separate canister as you were vacuuming?
Yes, I did.
Move to introduce State's Exhibits 84, 85, 86, 87, and 88.
No objection. We'll show them embedded.
Ms. Van Waus, I am not going to ask you to open those exhibits, but if you would just hold them up so the jury can see when you talk about a canister what you're talking about.
Would you like any particular one or just any?
Does not. Any one of those. Just list what particular one you've held up so they...
This is Exhibit 88. So through the clear plastic bag, you can see that there's a second plastic bag that's actually holding this plastic canister that has that trace evidence enclosed inside.
And Your Honor, I'd ask if it might be published to the jury so they might see it close up, because it will not show on the camera.
Well, the bailiffs hold it up front and walk it down so they can see it.
Are the type of canisters and that you just described the same in exhibit of the same nature in Exhibit 85, 86, 87, and 88?
Yes.
Now, was there a particular type of trace evidence that you were looking for when you started this trace evidence collection?
Yes.
What was that?
I was looking for hair, mostly.
Any particular type of hair?
I was looking for any hairs from the suspect or suspects or any kind of pet hair.
And as part of that, did you end up collecting evidence pursuant to a search warrant for the pets that were at the Sievers home?
Yes, I did.
And was that a cat and two dogs?
Yes, it was.
How did you collect hair from a cat and two dogs?
I actually used a brand new comb and I laid a sterile cloth down. I placed the animal on the cloth and I combed the hair off of the pet, and I collected this hair into an envelope and sealed it and packaged it for analysis.
Now, going back to the Hyundai Elantra, did you conduct a pheno test or pheno tests with the Hyundai Elantra?
It's a shorthand for phenolphthalein, but yes, I did phenolphthalein testing throughout this vehicle.
And would you describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what a phenolphthalein test is?
This is a presumptive test for blood. So this is something where we can swab a surface, put a 3-step chemical on the swab, and it will turn a color pink for a positive blood detection.
Now, did you have any positive tests, any positive results when you conducted your phenolphthalein test?
I had one.
And what did you do with that area when that occurred?
I swabbed that area so not only did I collect the swab that turned pink with the phenolphthalein test, I also took another swab of that area knowing that it came up positive for blood. So I took 2 additional swabs of that area and packaged it for analysis.
Can you give me just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Van Waus, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Now, you processed this vehicle on July 19th, correct?
That was the initial date that I started processing the vehicle.
Okay. And how many days did you spend doing that?
I spent multiple days doing it, but not one after the next.
Okay. And how long was the vehicle in the possession of Lee County Sheriff's Office?
It is still in possession of the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Now, this was a rental vehicle,
Yes.
and it was processed the processing began approximately 3 weeks after the events on Jarvis Road.
There was additional processing by another crime scene technician before I started processing the vehicle.
And that was the processing that was done in Arizona?
Correct, yes.
Do you know how many times during that period of time this car had been rented?
I do not.
Do you know where this car traveled to between the date on Jarvis Road, June 19th, and the day that you took possession of it?
I do not.
And the items that you tested and collected, they were sent where for
Which-
analysis?
Sorry, which items?
The vacuumings,
The vacuumings were submitted to the FBI.
directly to the FBI.
Yes.
Okay. The notes that you're referring to in your direct with Ms. Ross, when were those prepared?
These were prepared within the last few weeks.
Okay, so after your analysis was done, or well after the time that you examined the Elantra?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've been a crime scene technician since 2006, correct?
Correct.
And you have, according to your CV, 800 hours of training.
Over 800 hours.
Okay. In your first appearance here, I believe you broadly described to Ms. Ross that your duties are to document, assess, collect, and process. Is that correct? Do I have something wrong? Did I misstate one of them?
No, you said it right.
That's correct. Now, approximately 20% of the training that you've received has been in blood stain analysis, correct?
I've never figured out the percentage.
Well, I believe when I looked at your CV, it was about 181 hours that you
That-
spent on blood stain analysis.
It sounds correct.
Okay. Blood stain analysis is a very important part of your job, correct?
It is one of the parts of my job.
Okay. In a case such as this case, where there's blood present, it's probably more serious than in a case where blood isn't a factor, correct?
I would say yes, my training helped me on the cases where blood is present.
Okay. And you are actually the go-to person in the Lee County Sheriff's Office for blood issues, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, this goes well beyond the scope of direct examination.
Sustained, that's the question.
Nothing further.
Anything further from the state?
Just one question, Your Honor, for clarification. Anything that are in the notes to which you prepared and were referring, is there anything in there that was not in your initial reports?
No, everything is from my report.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
This witness to be retained or released?
This witness may be released, Your Honor.
Retained by the judge.
Ma'am, you're subject to recall. We'll let you know if you're needed again. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a short witness or no? If not, it might be the right time to break.
Yes, Your Honor. Maybe we can get it on and off in 20 minutes. But you can also do it after lunch.
Well, it's 20 minutes. Does the jurors have an objection? One more? One more. Who's next?
The state calls Aimee Lusk. I promised the bailiff I would turn around and pronounce the names.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
May it please court.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's still morning. Can you please state your full name for the record?
Aimee Lusk.
And Ms. Lusk, where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed with Lefta Systems.
And have you ever been employed with the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I have.
And when were you employed with the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
From November 17th, 2008 to June 29th of 2019.
So you moved on to greener pastures.
One could say.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you, when you were with the Lee County Sheriff's Office, did you become involved in an investigation involving the death of Dr. Teresa Sievers?
I did.
And to be specific, did you have an opportunity to collect some evidence from Jimmy Ray Rodgers?
I did. I was present for the collection of the evidence.
And then you took custody of it.
Yes,
Do you see Jimmy Rodgers in court?
I do.
Can you please point to him and identify him by an article of clothing he's wearing?
He is at the corner of the table there, and I believe a navy blue jacket.
May the record reflect that the witnesses identify the defendant.
Let the record so reflect.
Did you have an opportunity to take into custody hair samples from Jimmy Rodgers?
I did.
And were you present when these hair samples were collected from him?
I was.
And did you then supervise the packaging of the hair samples?
I supervised the packaging of the hair samples by the Collier County Sheriff's Office. They were then packaged by CST Van Waus.
And did you bring those hair samples with you today?
I did.
And were you also present with when there was a Buccal Swab taken of Mr. Rodgers?
I believe there was a Buccal Swab taken at that time. I would have.
Yeah, I saw you reach for the glove, so I thought
Oh, sorry.
you were gonna check the
I-
exhibit. I'm sorry.
I apologize.
Objection?
Yes.
I don't know what the objection
Overruled
is.
for looking at the exhibit, but as far as.
Okay, I didn't realize,
Question?
I didn't know what she was looking at.
Oh.
Question?
Yes, the next, and I'll go ahead and I'll come get those from you. Thank you. All right, so you brought the Buccal Swab and the hair samples with you today.
Yes.
All right. For the record, Judge, the witness has brought 58A, 58B, 58C, and 58D. You've seen those? You've seen those?
Yes.
Let's start first with 58A. 58A is labeled as a head hair sample, Jimmy Rodgers. Were you present when this sample was taken?
Yes.
Okay, and is the sample contained within the packaging marked 58A?
Yes.
This time I move to admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 58A.
No objection. Show it admitted.
Were you present when the beard beard hair sample was taken from Mr. Rodgers?
Yes.
And that's at 58B.
Yes.
And is the beard hair sample present within 58B?
I believe so.
Would you like to review 58B?
If I would need to read it to say that it's in 58B.
Okay.
I apologize. I just didn't memorize which package had what in it. Yes.
Your Honor, this time we would admit what's been previously identified as 58B and the evidence that states 58B.
Objection. Show it admitted.
B, bravo. 58C, were you present when Mr. Rodgers' pubic hairs were recovered from Mr. Rodgers?
I was.
Now, can you explain how you go about recovering pubic hairs from a person?
The crime scene technician from Collier County actually did the recovery of the hair with the exception of the pubic hairs. She provided the tweezers to Mr. Rodgers so that he could pluck them himself for his own comfort.
Okay. And you were present when Mr. Rodgers pulled the pubic hairs himself?
I was.
Okay. And you saw the pubic hairs then get packaged?
Yes.
I'm going to show you 58C and ask if you recognize 58C.
Pubic hair?
And is the pubic hair contained within 58C?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time we would move to admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 58C and evidence as 58C.
No objection. Show it admitted.
And finally, the Buccal Swab. Were you present when Mr. Rodgers was, when he was given a Buccal Swab?
Yes.
And again, can you tell the jury what a Buccal Swab is?
A buccal swab is a standard collected from the mouth of an individual. It is usually collected or is collected with two separate swabs. They rub the inside of the cheek looking for epithelial cells, skin cells from inside the mouth, and then it's packaged in cardboard so that it can dry properly and packaged in paper.
I'm going to show you 58D. You recognize 58D?
DNA swab of Jimmy Ray Rodgers,
All
yes.
right. And is the DNA swab present within the packaging?
Yes.
At this time, the State would admit 58D. David?
No objection. Show it admitted.
And you mentioned earlier that a Collier crime scene person assisted with recovering the evidence items from Mr. Rodgers.
Yes.
The evidence items were recovered by Collier County Sheriff's Office because at the time he was within.
Objection.
Just wait a minute.
Sorry.
At the time, isn't it correct that he was in Collier County when it was recovered?
Yes.
Yes.
Objection
Okay.
withdrawn.
Thank you. State tenders the witness.
Defense.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Was Mr. Rodgers cooperative with you during the collection?
Yes, he was.
Okay. No more questions, Judge.
Is this witness to be retained or released?
She's released.
Defense. Release?
We can release it.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Free
you.
to go. With that, it's 5 till noon, so we'll go ahead and break for lunch. We'll have you come back at 1:15. It should give you about an hour and 20 minutes to get lunch. Again, don't talk about the case among yourselves with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved, and we'll see you then. Back after lunch.
Just a heads up, Your Honor. Given how the schedule is progressing, the state wants to just alert the court and counsel that the state will most likely be calling the 2 FBI analysts in the afternoon.
Okay.
I'll be renewing all of my previous motions and noting for the record that I've been unable to depose them because of the lack of being provided the information that the state says they disclose. I We have not been able to locate it all.
Would you like time to talk to them when they get here?
At the very least, yes. I mean, I would say depose them even, but because I've been unable to obtain the evidence and not given sufficient time to do so to properly depose them after working with the expert that I retained and who provided an affidavit to the court.
Your Honor,
State.
might I respond?
Yes,
On
ma'am.
June 25th, Ms. Fitzgeorge sent an email asking that bench notes from the FBI be provided. On July 2nd, I sent a letter to the FBI. It included the complete unedited list of everything she was requesting. We received from the FBI a number of items, including multiple discs that were all uploaded. They have all been provided in discovery. The defense was given absolutely everything that was received by the FBI, all of their bench notes, everything that could be provided was provided. I am unclear how defense counsel can say that they were not provided everything, because the other night I went through and checked every disc opens. Those discs are indexed. One can go through every one of those discs, and I wanted on the record that full and complete discovery was provided to the defense.
Okay, I'm going to encapsulate everything, because even though it's in the record from before, because we've had a court reporter at every process during every stop prior to trial and during trial. The state, you're saying you've given everything over and the FBI has given everything. However, Ms. Fitzgeorge's expert saying that is not true. I have no idea what's true with that. And the reality is I can't force the FBI to do anything, and getting someone from the federal government to show up here is a process where they can ignore anything I send them as well. So I don't know which is true, and the state has turned everything over. There's not much else I can force them to do, because they can't force the FBI to do anything either. However, those two are here. If you would like to talk to them and or depose them, I'll give you the time this afternoon. Maybe they're going to come in and tell you, yeah, there is other stuff, and here it is. I don't know. So what would you like?
I would like to take that opportunity. Part of what I asked for is to identify what software was used, what programs are used. This is not the first time I've been down this road with the state where we receive something, they say it's all there, and I can't open it to even know what it is. I've gone through this too. I've had difficulty. Dr. Leiter has had difficulty as well. And then when I approached the court and asked for a continuance based on his unavailability for 2 weeks in this process, my requests were denied. I think that's depriving due process for my client.
Well, I think I put in the order why that was denied, and I think I was quite clear and succinct on why I denied that as well.
And I provided an affidavit to the court as well.
An affidavit that it was other business purposes and amorphous things that had nothing to do with this, and this case would take precedent as a capital murder case over anything else he's doing without something more concrete than what he gave. You want time to talk to them when they get here? When can you produce them?
Your Honor, I can produce them at 1:15 this afternoon.
Well, I wish I had known this before we let the jury go and told them to be back at 1:15. Have them here at 1:15. We'll reconvene before we bring the jury back out, and we'll see.
Your Honor, I will make a quick call and ask that they be here at 12:30. Does that...
Well, if you guys can get lunch between now and then and want to speed the process up, I'd appreciate it. But if you want your full lunch, I get it.
We have a court reporter who
1:15.
might enjoy a...
Can I address just one thing counsel said, Judge? I was the one who processed the discovery, okay? The discovery that they were provided was in PDF format. But there was some other miscellaneous file format that came to us on the disk that I was unable to open. I placed it into the PDFs as attachments. When we contacted FBI and said, hey, we got these files that we can't open, he sent us an email back saying it's the same thing that we gave you in PDF, but it's in whatever program that we have, and you take what we give you. That's pretty much what he said. So we also were unable to open those attachments. However, we were told that everything we were given is viewable in the PDF file that we provided to the defense.
Well, those are great questions for the witnesses when you guys talk to them in the back at 1:15. See everybody at 1:15.
Thank you, Your Honor.